This is the concept design community meeting for the Dead Run at Georgetown Pike Stream Restoration Project. And for those who may not know who we are here in the Stormwater Planning Division that takes care of capital improvement projects such as stream restorations like this and other stormwater retrofits. Our sister agency handles the maintenance of infrastructure of pipes, outfalls, existing ponds, and much more. Together, we are one of the 4 business areas of the Department of Public Works. So today, I'll first quickly go over our program drivers, then move on to where this project is, refresh our memory on our goals and what we've done to this point. Then I'll take us through the concept plan that has been developed, which is what this presentation is about, showing some of the typical structures that we put in that have been successful and completed projects and that will be used again in this one. And then I'll end with what's to come next, along with my contact information for those who would like to reach me. So in the big picture of why we do what we do is that there are there's multiple federal, state, and local regulations that basically say we need to help improve water quality, specifically in the Chesapeake Bay. So I have an aerial here. This is taken from NASA. That, this is the Susquehanna River. This is Baltimore, and we are here in DC. And you can see just how dirty our Chesapeake Bay gets. And this is our lovely Potomac River that isn't quite as dirty as up here, but it's not clear. So we find that erosion is very common in our urban streams where sediment dissolves in the water, and then we start to get excess amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, total suspended solids, and all that suffocates aquatic life and pollutes our water. So all these regulations basically help say we need to do something to help prevent all this murkiness. And next slide. Stormwater as a business area is actually relatively new. We just turned 20 last year, and we exist for other reasons such as maintenance, like I had mentioned, and also to regulate local dams and be prepared for emergency response, specifically for major hurricanes and tropical storms. So these are the reasons why we exist as stormwater as part of public works. So just to get our bearings, the restoration will start in the uppermost point. It's south on the map and water flows north. But we start here at Churchill Road. We go through Dead Run Stream Valley Park all the way to Georgetown Pike, just past it, and then there is a tributary behind St. Luke Catholic Church. Just to note, there are existing stormwater and floodplain easements throughout this entire stream valley, which gives the county permission to enter and restore the stream channel. Over the past few years, we have worked on numerous stream restoration projects within Dead Run, most recently through McLean Central Park. So this is Churchill Road, this is the library, the community center. So we just completed this segment 2-3 in 2019, and then we did segment 1 on the Dominican Retreat property a couple years before that. So all of this is an effort to improve the Dead Run watershed, both ecologically and structurally. Typically, we work upstream or work our way downstream. So that's where we are now. And eventually, there will be even another project for Dead Run, which will be in a couple years once we figure this one out first. So our project goals, I'll try not to get into the weeds of these since I went over this last time. So if there's anything you want me to expand on, I can do that at the end. But ultimately, mass erosion, as we often experience in developed communities like ours, is bad. Erosion is not good. And if we can reduce this mass erosion, we reduce how much sediment is falling to the water, which is that source of excess nutrients that we saw in that NASA photo. And to give you a better idea, this drainage area is 680 acres with 40% impervious cover. And that's really high. 40% is It's a lot of asphalt, concrete, roofs, buildings where water can't infiltrate into the ground. Instead, it's rushed through pipe systems that later fire hoses into the dead run stream valley. And with that large quantity of fast moving water in mind, a lot of design effort has been made to make sure we design a stream that conveys water efficiently. And allowing water to escape out of the channel and into the floodplain is an extremely important concept of a healthy stream restoration. In natural stream valleys, there is always an activated floodplain. And when we say that, we mean that water can reside on this floodplain to infiltrate slowly, as opposed to being rushed downstream or being piped downstream. And by doing so, there is less force, less volume within the channel, which is what often leads to erosion. Using the floodplain allows us to design the stream more naturally with less heavy engineered solutions such as gaving baskets or massive boulders. And the floodplain acts as a natural filter for nutrients and sediment that would normally be washed downstream. And from a landscaping perspective, the moist nature of the floodplain allows for ecological diversity with wet-loving plants. That kind of segues into improving the ecological habitat to introduce back wildlife that have been absent and remove invasives that are currently taking over. So as we get further into design and at the concept we're not quite there yet, we will have a very extensive native landscaping plan to encourage species diversity, and these native plants is actually another source of natural filters for water before it enters into the Potomac River. So, native plants have extensive root systems and it can take the water up as opposed to turf and grass, which has a very, very shallow root system. And unique to this project are all the sanitary lines that run up and down and across the stream. So a huge decision into this project is that we want to protect our infrastructure by either moving the stream away from the channel or protecting the banks, because the last thing anybody wants is a broken pipe with sewage spilling into our stream. With these stream restorations, I'm able to talk to you and present this to you, but with an emergency with a sewage breakage, our wastewater group doesn't have that luxury to plan this ahead. They will go in, they will do what they need to do, and oftentimes it's a lot of disruption that nobody wants. So that's a big reason on why we do this, is that we really want to protect our infrastructure, whether it's sanitary or stormwater. And later I'll share a map on how all those sanitary lines affect what we do in our design. And our social goals, I'm here having this dialogue with you, and we plan on holding more of these community meetings as we continue through the design process. We don't want to surprise anyone when the project goes under construction, and we want to make sure that we set realistic expectations for the community with you all who actually live here. And we understand that this is your home, and we respect that, and that we still have an obligation to water quality improvements, but we do want to work with you and have all of these discussions with you. The design team includes engineers, ecologists, arborists, landscape architects, technicians. Stantec has the whole field staff involved, so it's a big team effort to get this done with a lot of different backgrounds and expertise. So the graphic here is the channel evolution model that most urban streams go through. Now, ideally, there's a constant base flow within the channel and it can escape to a small bench or a floodplain. But with land use change, whether it's neighborhoods or roads, that bench goes away. And then more water comes in, it's in size, you see trees starting to fall in, and eventually there is this down cutting where it just gets deeper and deeper. And once it gets too deep or it hits bedrock, it starts to get wider and wider. And that's where you see that I have pictures of just trees falling in, and over time, the stream will heal by itself by naturally forming benches again, but at the expense of widening and eating up land, which in this case is a lot of people's backyards and in extreme cases into people's homes. So that's why we're here to restore the stream. We're trying to prevent further movement in the stream because of these outside factors and instead design a stream that will convey water in a healthy fashion. So what have we done at this point since I last talked to everyone at the pre-designed? So we've completed all of our survey work, our existing conditions analysis to study exactly what we're dealing with is done. We've completed the pre-design plan, and right now we're at the concept plan. A couple weeks ago, the entire design team did a field walk, and you may have noticed that there have been stakes and flags around trees, and all of that is so that we can take what's on paper, put it in real life, and make sure that they match. This exercise allowed us to see, a tree being removed that may not actually needed to be removed, or the other way around, that this concept will really hurt this tree. Can we do anything to tweak the design? Sometimes the answer is no. And we found that in the past, when we try to adjust the design to save something, a tree or a monument of some sort, we see more harm than good to the stream. And next up, we will finalize comments on the design plan and uh, get Stantec, our design consultant, to continue with the revised concept and ultimately the final design. So I will switch screens to this PDF of the concept plan, and I will zoom in because I know this is a lot to look at, but from just a big picture scale, I wanted to note the construction access points. So just to get our bearings, this is Churchill Road. This is, I think, Dead Run Drive, Ingleside Avenue and Barron Road is over here. I think Shipman is here. Georgetown Pike is over here, and the church is located here. Carper Street is here. So our main points of construction access will be off of Churchill Road and Georgetown Pike. So let me switch over to, oops. All right. So I know there's a lot to see, and I know homeowners often want to know what's going on specifically behind their home. And I'm happy to take a snip for you and take a picture of exactly what's going on behind your home. But I do ask that you email me for that as opposed to asking me today, just because there's a lot of people here and I would like to respect everyone's time. So if you email me, I'm happy to take a plan view of what's going on specific behind your home. But with that said, I will start upstream and I'll start to pan downstream and then go up the tributary. And please bear with me, this document is very big, so there will be some buffering involved. And I will try to have the view so that you can see the homes and maybe catch where you live relative to the stream. So just give me a moment while this buffers. It's quite large. And there will be a lot of colors, which I will explain what all those mean. Okay, there we go. So again, this is Churchill Road. And just to explain the colors, the red here are the existing limits of the stream. So these are where the stream currently is. The blue line is the proposed concept alignment. The green lines are those sanitary lines I told you about. And you not only have one set of lines, you have three, which is a lot. So with that, for here, I will zoom in just to show exactly what's going on in the stream, but it's pretty repetitive throughout. So after that, I'll zoom out. And again, we're entering through Churchill Road. The shaded area is staging area where equipment and materials will be stored. And again, I do want to emphasize that this access road is purely temporary. It's meant for equipment vehicles to come in and out to do the work. And afterwards, we will restore all this with native vegetation. So starting up at Churchill Road, we will be grading, and there's a lot of grading to get smooth slopes with pools here. Then the water will flow up through a riffle down to a pool. And that's as a way to slow the water down vertically. That's a very common, in natural stream valleys, that's what you see. You see glides, riffles, pools, and it just goes up and down, mimicking a natural stream. You'll see here that that there are these depiction of logs. So those are trees that unfortunately have to come down, but we are implementing it back into the streams. You'll see those tree depictions. Here is a riffle with some logs, and that kind of helps with some diversity in the stream so that water will flow over the logs, create a little scour pool, and then you'll have some habitat living in there. And our ecologists love these features. So we try where we can to implement more wood into the stream, less rock. And this is an example of, you see that red line is the existing limits, and we have that sanitary right underneath it. So this is an example of one area that we asked Stantec to keep in mind that sanitary line. We want to protect it, so we pushed this blue line, these blue lines, the proposed stream away from the sanitary lines. So that's one example, and you'll see that we do that in many places where possible. This is some of that log structures, and then we'll enter an example of a rock structure. And I'm actually going to pull back up the PowerPoint because I have a picture of what that looks like. So this is one of those grade control structures, and the idea is that water flow is concentrated towards the middle of the structure with arms sloping up. So during high flows, water is pushed up against these rocks. And, right now, what would happen is that there would be raw banks. So if there's high water coming against the raw banks, that's how erosion happens. Or that's one aspect of erosion. But with these rock structures, you have these arms that help protect the banks. So there are a couple of these structures. Let me go back to the PDF. So yes, that's a location of one of them. And actually, I think Stantec, their art department, created a rendering of this particular location. So this is an example of those log structures that I talked about that gently has water flowing over it, and then it goes into a pool and it becomes it's much more natural. Right now we have, a lot of trees about to fall in. It's very vertical. So this is the idea and this is the image of the entire restoration really, is that having that floodplain connectivity, having armoring where we need it. And again, there's another example of these log rollers that we've put in and have seen a lot of diversity of ecological habitat. And this is another example. You'll see these red triangle hatch marks, and this is location of bamboo, which we see as a highly invasive non-native. And we have a whole dedicated team to taking those out and putting back in native vegetation that attracts all the birds and the bees and all the good things that bamboo does not come with. I do want to point out that I talked about slowing water vertically with these pools and riffles, but there are also the science of stream geometry, where we try to slow down water horizontally by allowing water to curve as it flows downstream. And we are very limited by the sanitary lines, but where we can, we try to add some bends just to have that curve so that water is just not going a straight shot downstream. We are going up this tributary that goes to Ingleside Avenue. And this is just the alignment that works the best, that we found to be the most healthy. Again, putting some more log structures down. Have this access road that is temporary. This is a clump of dead trees. So we found that as an opportunity for staging area for any materials that the contractor may need. We found in the past that the more staging areas that we have, the easier it is for contractors to do the work. Otherwise, you're hauling in and out every single day of material. It's much easier if we can haul every now and then, have the materials on site, and be able to work with it. I'll start to zoom out because we have that same feature of these log rollers into pools and then these rock structures. So there really isn't a lot of rock in this project, which is really nice. We really put an emphasis on making it as natural as possible, putting back logs into the stream and using what we have on site. And again, you can see that this is a sanitary line crossing this particular location. It's hard to see, but there is a manhole here, and I do actually have a photo of it to share. So this manhole, as you can see, is tethering very closely to the edge of the stream. So this is an example location where water right now is pounding to the side, probably scouring underneath it right here, and eventually this will be exposed. And this is an example of what we don't want with our infrastructure. You'll see these green stakes across the stream valley, and that is an indication of an existing sewer line. So these are very well marked. If you walk along the stream valley, you can't miss these. They're everywhere. So in that case, with this, we try to pull the proposed stream away, away from the manhole. And just to get our bearings, we are approaching the cul-de-sac of Priority Place and Shipman Lane. So I'm trying to get bearings for you all as I pan through. And this is a very interesting section of stream because it actually becomes very flat and there's actually pretty good connectivity already. So you'll see here that the blue and the red start to align with each other. And that really means that we're not doing very much. We're just smoothing out the sides. We don't want to disrupt too much. We're utilizing cleared space that was already cleared for the sanitary lines. So there isn't too much tree removal. There's not a lot of disturbance. We're really not, and I think now we're on the Cloisters HOA property, but we're really not touching much within the stream. It's just the sides, helping with erosion and not having such a vertical bank. And as we approach Georgetown Pike, you'll see that we are proposing to move the stream away from all of these sanitary lines and using this kind of dead vegetation space. You see this big staging area, and it's largely because there's nothing really growing there. And it's also right next to Georgetown Pike. So, you know, the view from Georgetown Pike isn't quite as important. So we push the stream closer to the road, of course, keeping in mind that we will not flood it more than it's already flooded. And this is the entrance location from Georgetown Pike. And I'll start to pan over to behind Duncraig Court. About maybe 10 to 15 years ago, the county came in here and put in some gabion structures because there was a really bad, this was a very bad erosion spot. So there is an existing gabion structure. However, we have found that although gabion structures work, they are just a Band-Aid. So we are proposing to pull the stream away from the gabion wall, create a bench, and then tie in for a later project. And this will have its own construction entrance off of Georgetown Pike. And I will start at the top of the tributary that is right behind the St. Luke Catholic Church. Starting at the top, again, there's a big area of bamboo here that we would like to eliminate, just given its invasive nature. There's a lot, the trip here is there's a lot of dead wood, and let me pull up a photo. So this is really what it looks like through this tributary. There's a lot of trees that have fallen down. I'm sure by the time we get here for construction, there'll be more falling down, but this is very, very common. It was challenging to walk along this tributary. But yes, so it's a lot of creating that sinuosity to help the water move and slow down. Again, trying to get rid of this bamboo and put in native vegetation. Um, but yeah, so this is an area that we're constantly looking at. We looked at this alignment in the field. A lot of different of our a lot of those in our on our team have different opinions about how this aligns, and we found some trees that we prefer to save, and we're trying to tweak it as we go. But yeah, so this is where the tributary connects with Georgetown Pike. There's a pump station here, so this is where all of the sanitary lines converge. So we're very sensitive to maintain this area. And to give you an idea of what it looks like, I do have a photo. So this is Georgetown Pike. We have so many exposed roots. This is an unfortunate reality for a lot of our urban streams. It just, over time, these trees will fall over. And with the pump station right here, pumping our sewage, that's the last thing we want, is a tree to fall on that. So um, yes, so that is the concept plan, very quickly panned. I know there's a lot to look at. And again, if you have specific questions about what's going on behind your home, I'm happy to take a picture of what's going on your property or near your property and give you time to really look at that. Right, and shifting back to the presentation. Again, this is an example of using the logs back in. And I did want to talk about trees because especially this one depiction, I'm sure, I keep talking about how we're trying to improve the water quality in the environment. And then you see something like this where I'm taking down a bunch of trees, which sounds really hypocritical that, if I cared so much, why am I taking down or proposing to take down all these trees? So it is something that we take into account. We surveyed um, over 1,000 trees over a foot. We don't survey the ones under a foot diameter. And of those trees, we have 330 to be removed. And of those 330 trees that are being removed, 160 are dead. It's about half. Half of them are already dead or in poor condition. So a lot of these trees are already dead. So we targeted these dead tree areas as staging. And you'll see here that we did try to take note, to take note of specimen trees, ones that we really wanted to avoid. So we turn on these critical root zone layers. So we tried to limit the grading in the critical root zone of these really massive, healthy trees that we would rather put effort into saving rather than every single one within the stream valley. Something to just keep in mind that although there is a large tree loss associated with these projects, it is something that we take into account. We prioritize the healthy ones. We had an urban forester come out with us and confirm what takes priority. And a lot of those trees are implemented back into the design. And and a very extensive native landscape will be included with this project. Oh, and this is a rendering of one of the sections within the stream. And again, this is an example of those woody debris features. And I think last time I shared with you a GIS story map. And let me pull that up because I think it's a really nice resource for you. So this is the project website. This is where you join the meeting. And right here is that story map. So if you click on it, you can go to our current project. You can see the existing photos. If you want to take a careful look at exactly what it looks like, you can go to the completed restorations through McLean Central Park. See before, during, and after photos. I think this is a great resource. I went through this last time, so I won't do it again, but I just wanted to remind you that this is here, just for a resource. And let's see. We are still quite far from construction. We're still doing the design right now, but just so you know what it looks like, this is a typical access road that I spoke about. It's lined with timber matting. Any nearby trees, we put wooden planks to protect it. You know, we make it very clear that it's, you know, there's a sanitary manhole. So it's a very it's a big road, but we make a lot of efforts to make sure we don't compact the ground. If we do, we make sure to till it and to loosen it so that things can actually grow. Oh, a real life photo of what it looks like, because I do want to be transparent that although I may share so many photos of what it looks like post restoration, there is a reality of what it looks like during construction, which is not so pretty. But if you could bear with us with the construction phase, the results are really stunning. And we've had quite a few restoration projects with many, many years of growth, and it looks really, really good. So the schedule, we have completed the community meeting on the pre-design. The concept design meeting was today. We will do another community meeting this fall. And we are anticipating final design winter of 2022. So construction is pending approval of future funding, which means we kind of see on a year-to-year basis where the design is. And there's a whole set of designs that are being in production right now across the county. So right now we are scheduled to have funding available in fiscal year 2024, which means it is at the earliest available July 2023. So we're still at least 2 years away. And this will be a moving date that hopefully as we get further in design, I will have a better date for you. So with that, this is my contact information, which is all on the website. And that concludes my formal presentation. So I will open this to questions. And as I answer questions, I do have a slideshow prepared of completed project photos. So you don't have to just see me, you can see photos of what was done on McLean Central Park. This is all dead run 2, 3, and segment 1. So with that, I have not been looking at the chat and I can see that there were a couple of comments. Let's see. Okay. I think Sejan.
There is one hand raised from Cluster HOA. If you can unmute and have question.
Yes, so please, if you have any questions, you are welcome to put that in the chat or you can speak up. Oh, I see a hand raised.
Yeah, this is Karen from the Cloisters HOA.
Oh, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
I do have a couple of questions. I noticed a large part of this project is on the Cloisters HOA property. When I saw your map, the area that is of the stream that runs between Shipman and Priory Place, you said there's not going to be too much done there, but we have had terrible erosion there. I mean, I've been in this house for 35 to 40 years. And so I'm hoping that they will address the powerful erosion that we have there caused by the upstream building.
Yes, it's a short section. It's a short section that is not very eroded away. But I think the section that you're talking about, I'm trying to look at the map now, where there's like active vertical eroded banks. Yes, we will.
Okay.
We will have a gentle slope.
Okay, good. And then, let's see, I had a couple of questions. And we have a very, very large floodplain behind the Priory Place. So that side of the stream, with about most of the houses on Priory Place that abut the stream are abutting the floodplain. And I know that your people don't want it to be mowed, but our children play there. So will they work with us on what they're going to suggest as far as plantings and restrictions on cutting and things like that?
Yeah, and you're right. We generally prefer to not have a mowed turf lawn. But we understand that this is a common space that you all would like to enjoy. And ideally, we like the idea of enjoying the space in a very natural way. And we do have planting requirements. So for every, I forget the unit of measurement, but for every area we disturb, we are required to restore it with a certain density of trees and shrubs and native grass. So as we develop the landscaping plan, I'll definitely be sure to share with you the exact area of planting that's going to be done, and then we can maybe see from there what you think could work or not work. And there may be opportunity where we move some trees to another location to be planted, but we do have a pretty strict density requirement of trees to put in.
Okay. And then lastly, there is a storm drain that comes from Priory Place down into the flood. Right now, someone in their wisdom decided to put rocks at the bottom of it, which really made it worse. And then it goes into the floodplain and it's just a swamp. So we're hoping that they will address that as a wetland area because it goes right from the storm drain to the creek. So hopefully they'll work with that on trying to figure out what to put in that space.
Yes, and it would be really helpful if you could get a map and draw that space so we know exactly what you're talking about. We can see if that has been addressed or not.
Okay, I can do that and send it to you then.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, thank you so much. That's
There
it.
is another hand raised from Mr. Pierce.
It's Marilee Pierce. Hi.
Okay.
Hi, Marilee.
Yeah, really excited about the project and excited and grateful that you're going to be going after the bamboo, which has been a concern. I serve on the MCA's Environment, Parks, and Recreation Committee, so of course we've been following all the dead run restoration projects carefully. I'm especially glad to see that the tributary that goes from Ingleside to the main stem, as well as the trib that comes down in back of St. Luke's, is included in this. I've walked both of them and wondered if they how you were going to deal with those two tributaries. You did a good job on the dead run on the other side of Churchill Road. My question is has to do with the trib that comes down and back of St. Luke's. As you probably know from walking it, that is one huge trench of porcelain berry that you can barely see the stream that's there. So it's my assumption that as part of this project, that will all be taken care of as the bamboo is.
Yes.
Because that has been an eyesore. We have the invasive removal project at Churchill Road Elementary, and at some point when we had more volunteers, I was going to broach this very subject with St. Luke's. So clearly, with this project planned, we may not have to do that, but it's a blight. And the porcelain berry, of course, just begets more porcelain berry, and you can barely see the stream. But I photographed it, so I know where it is, and I'm really glad that it's going to be taken care of. It also, this part of the tributary is channelized in good old 1950s, 1960s style through the St. Luke's playground. Is that part of that? Obviously, you're going to be doing something there.
Yes.
with the rest of the streams there. That channeling, that old-fashioned concrete channeling is going to be.
Oh, no,
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 you're
sorry. Yes, you're right. That concrete channel is not included in this scope of work. It's just the stream, the tributary.
That's just the tributary, okay?
Yeah.
Because one sort of leads off of the other, and I was wondering that's I think it's on St. Luke's property, but
It
it's
is, yeah.
it has been a concern for some time, for basically because again it's old technology.
Yes.
And my final question is, how many of the trees that are going to be removed are being removed for the access road? Do you have that figure? Your access roads.
Specifically for the access road, I'm sure Stantec Online could eventually get that number for you, but I don't think we have that at the top of our head.
I'm just curious. I know you do what you can to avoid the mature trees as you can, but those roads are big, and and you have to have them to get the machinery in, and you do lose trees as a result. I was just curious of that number. And will you have a chance to have a walkthrough so that you can identify for people the trees that will be removed?
We can, if requested, we can do a walk. It is a very large stream, so
Yeah.
if there is interest, we definitely can.
Oh, we did that with Dead Run, and it worked very well.
Yeah, especially with the trail that goes through the stream valley, it makes it very accessible. Otherwise, it does get a little tricky.
No, you've
But
got access for most of it.
yeah, and I did want to go back to your comment about the access road, that we are using the conveniently already cleared sanitary sewer path. So it's been cleared already for all the sanitary lines. You can see that the green are existing lines, and then we have the access road basically on top. And we did confirm with wastewater that the sanitary lines are deep enough so that we're not going to disturb them.
I had no idea there were 3 separate lines under there. I knew there was one, but I'm really surprised to learn that there are 3. So that makes sense that the land is clear over them.
Yes. So I think that addresses some of your questions about trees, that, we actually do not have a lot of tree removal, a couple, but not as much as other projects.
Okay.
Because there has been so much disturbance already from the sanitary line.
Right. Okay, good. Excellent. I'm sure other questions will occur to us, but we will get them to you as they do. But thank you. This is really exciting.
Yes, thank you.
And there is another hand raised from Mr. or Mrs. Thompson.
Yes, thank you. Hi, this is Mike Thompson. I live on Cloisters Drive. But there's another concrete drainage that I think comes down from Shipman Lane and connects into the stream. And part of it, I know it's broken, and there's extremely high velocity flow down that drainage. And I wondered if that is being included in the project somehow.
You said, sorry, can you repeat where this is again?
I believe it comes down from Shipman Lane and drains into Dead Run. It's a concrete drainage channel, but it's north of the park. The drainage it goes through the park, and it's before you get to the bend down here by my house on Cloisters Drive.
Okay, I think it's this here, and we will address outfalls as it enters the stream. I can't recall if there's a concrete ditch. I know there's a couple of pipe networks from Shipman Lane, but yes, we will look at these connections as it outfalls into the stream. So these will be taken into account.
Does that mean you're just taking into account the velocity of the drainage out of them, or you're actually going to do something about reducing the water?
There's nothing we can do about reducing water that comes into it, right? This is a natural drainage path. This is the existing, in red here are the existing stormwater pipes. So there's not much we can do about what's coming out of the pipes, but we can put in measures to help slow down water as it gets into the main stem.
Okay, right. Well, that's what I would think, because this is actually not a pipe. It's it's just a concrete flue almost that's put in there that's broken in a couple of places. Anyway,
Right.
just something to be done to reduce the velocity coming in would be helpful.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I do think we have included this into our
Okay.
scope.
Great, thank you. And I would second the motion for doing a walkthrough when you get the plans ready.
Okay,
Good.
yeah, we can absolutely do that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other questions anyone have? Because I have not seen any other hand raised right now.
Oh, I see a question from
On chat. Okay.
yes, is it Ira from Mr. Hunt?
Yes.
Hi.
Yes,
Yeah.
Vivian, thanks. Thanks for all the communications. Appreciate it a lot.
Yes. You asked, how long does it typically take for native wildlife to return to the disrupted area? I think, Danielle, are you here to help answer that? She is our landscape architect with this project.
Yes, so I can speak a little bit more to the vegetation and some of the wildlife. I mean, it really depends on the type of wildlife. Obviously, we have some more species that are a little bit more sensitive than others. There's some that are very resilient, so they'll come back within the first year. We've seen a lot of birds that do that on our other projects, but really, it takes probably a good 3 years for the vegetation to get established and that habitat to form again, which will bring in a lot of the native wildlife.
Okay, and then was there an ecological study that was done that is available if people want to look at it?
There are a lot of different stream restoration studies that have been published, and I can try to refer to you a couple of the applicable ones if that's what you're interested in.
I was specifically asking if one was done for this one. I mean, we have a lot of native wildlife,
I see.
between, that we see every single day, and obviously they're going to be driven out. And so I was just kind of curious how that all gets restored and how long it takes.
Yeah.
We typically do not do the wildlife survey on this one. This is more to meet the environmental regulations, the core permits and stuff. So that is specific thing is we haven't done it.
I'm guessing you're thinking of like an environmental impact study that kind of like VDOT does when they do their road
Well,
project.
yeah, something on those lines. I mean, I don't know how this feel, but we have an extraordinary abundance of just really beautiful native, particularly wildlife animals. We've got these great blue heron that feed in the stream and nest nearby. We got owls, we got the hawks, we got just frogs, turtles, you name it. Everything is already here. And one of my concerns is that you're going to be driving all that out when you do all this work, and then it's going to take a long time, I guess, for it all to return back to what would be considered to be a native habitat. And I don't know what sort of studies were done to look at the impact of that on the quality of life, in the region there. So the wildlife.
We have done so many of these stream projects, and I know typically plants takes a couple of years, so 3 to 4 years, have a good size plants out there, and after that, the wildlife has returned. And I mean, a lot of projects that I have done, I have seen down there all the birds coming back, the fishes coming back, and the others. So we haven't typically done a study to say how many years it takes, but they will return back because we converted a stream that is well eroded to a stream that looks more natural. So this should be coming back.
Yeah, and one of my previous stream restoration projects in Annandale, they have a neighborhood bird watcher there, and he made a comment that he has observed so many, like at least a dozen birds that he's never seen before, finally entering the stream valley just because of the different clearing that was done and the different trees that we planted in. So there is the wildlife does come back. It does take time, and it does get a little scary because it appears that we totally denude the area and that all the, there's nowhere for animals to come back, but they absolutely do come back. And it'll be different animals.
And just to quickly add on to that too, the Dead Run Stream Valley is this connected corridor of green space and native habitat, right? So birds and animals that have these larger habitat zones may shift upstream or downstream in the dead stream valley corridor, and they'll still be in the same area. So they'll more quickly come back to this part of Dead Run as the stream heals and the vegetation establishes.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
oh,
Yeah, sorry.
thank
And then
you.
I just had a previous question before that one, which is just as you work to finalize the plans, are we going to have opportunity to see and comment on them before they're officially finalized?
Yes. So I know you and I have been speaking separately, and yes, absolutely, we can share the plans. And this is why we do these community meetings, is to get feedback so we can incorporate any concerns from those who are living here into the plan and try to see where it fits, and if it doesn't fit, then we can try to come to an understanding on why we're proposing something. So yes, there are at least 2 more iterations of design. There's a revised plan, and then a 95% plan, and then the final plan. So there are a few more steps until we reach final.
Okay, and so I'm assuming we'll be notified of a final review period that we'll have in order to look at it in detail.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Vivian, there was a question, I don't know if you answered that, and that was whether somebody asked whether native plantings will be put on both sides of the stream, even where the lawns are now. That's a question from MG.
Yes, that's a good question. We will be putting back native planting within our limits of disturbance. So it will be on either side of the stream as we're working on it. I can't say exactly the buffer. Generally, it kind of depends on what we're doing in each area, and we never try to extend the limits of disturbance more than we need to. So as I think I mentioned earlier with Karen, that we really don't, we try to discourage lawns, and we understand that lawns is a great use of your backyard to play in, and we're hoping that this environment is also a great place to admire wildlife in a native landscape. So it's hard to say how far on both sides of the stream we'll be putting in native landscaping, but it will absolutely be within the limits of disturbance where vehicles are in and out, where we're grading. So in some places it might be very large, some places very minimal. Thank you, Assad. I missed that question. All right, so I don't see anyone else's hands up that haven't already spoken. I don't see any more questions. So with that, my contact information is on the website. And again, please let me know if there's anything specific you wanted me to expand on, and I'm open to any feedback on the presentation because you will be hearing from me again in a couple months. So any feedback is much appreciated. And it sounds like a walkthrough is requested. So I will work on a date and try to reach out to people. It is a long stretch of stream. So feedback on, if it's just your property specifically or the entire stream, that would be good for me to know to figure out how to schedule that with those interested. All right.
Vivian, there was a question whether the entire PDF plan is going to be available for download.
I hesitate to put on the website just because it's such a huge file that I can barely upload onto my computer. So if there is an interest in the entire plan, please let me know and I can send you a link, a separate link to download it, because I think our county website would not be able to handle such a large file. All right, I think that's everything. I will stop recording now and I will hang on for